The moment I saw the insurance claim documents scattered across our kitchen counter, something felt off. My husband Michael's nervous fidgeting, the way his eyes darted around the room, it was a telltale sign that something was seriously wrong. I'm Olivia Hartley, 34, a forensic accountant who'd spent her entire career uncovering financial deceptions. Ironically, the most significant deception was happening right in my own home. "Everything okay?" I asked, setting down my briefcase. Michael quickly shuffled the papers. "Just some routine paperwork," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. But I knew Michael. We'd been married for 8 years, and I could read him like an open book. Something was definitely not routine. My mother-in-law, Gloria Bennett, had always been a complex figure in our lives. Wealthy, connected, and with an almost suffocating influence over Michael, she'd never truly accepted me. From the moment we married, she'd made it clear that I wasn't the daughter-in-law she'd imagined for her only son. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle changes. Michael became more secretive, taking calls in another room, whispering with Gloria during family dinners. Their conversations would abruptly stop whenever I entered. 2 weeks later, an unexpected envelope arrived. Professional letterhead, official looking. My forensic accounting instincts kicked in immediately. I recognized the logo. It was from a local insurance company. While Michael was at work, I carefully opened the envelope. My hands trembled as I read through the documents. A $2 million life insurance policy. On me, the details were meticulous. Recent medical records showing a fabricated health condition. Detailed documentation suggesting I was a high-risk individual. Everything looked legitimate at first glance. But to my trained eye, something felt manufactured. I knew the insurance game. I'd spent years investigating fraudulent claims, helping companies identify and prevent scams. And this had Gloria's fingerprints all over it. A series of text messages between Michael and Gloria revealed the shocking truth. They were planning an insurance fraud scheme that would net them $2 million if something were to happen to me. "She needs the money for her renovations," Michael had texted Gloria. "The policy will solve everything." My stomach churned. Not from fear, but from a cold, calculated anger. They hadn't just betrayed me, they'd underestimated me. I spent the next week gathering evidence: bank statements, phone records, communication logs. Every piece of digital and paper trail told a story of manipulation and greed. Gloria had always seen me as an obstacle. I wasn't from their social circle, didn't come from old money like they did. I was a self-made professional who'd built her career through hard work and intelligence. To Gloria, I was never good enough for her precious son. My research revealed a pattern. This wasn't their first attempt at an insurance scheme. Small, carefully orchestrated incidents in the past suggested they'd been perfecting their method for years. Michael, always financially dependent on his mother, had become her perfect accomplice. He'd inherit the insurance money, and Gloria would get her cut for helping him through the process. Most people would have confronted them immediately. Most would have erupted in anger, created a scene. But I'm not most people. I'm a strategist, and they had no idea what was coming. One evening, during a family dinner at Gloria's expensive suburban mansion, I watched them. Michael nervously cutting his steak. Gloria subtly directing every conversation, every movement. "Is everything all right, Olivia?" Gloria asked, her perfectly manicured hand resting on Michael's arm. Her smile was predatory, calculated. "Everything's perfect," I replied, my voice calm. Too calm. They had no idea that every conversation was being recorded. Every text message, every whispered plan. I had documentation that would not just expose their fraud, but potentially send them to prison. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted justice. And I had a plan that would not only protect myself, but ensure they could never harm anyone else again. As I sipped my wine, watching Gloria's self-satisfied smile, I couldn't help but think they should have known better than to try and outsmart a forensic accountant, especially when that forensic accountant was me. The game was just beginning. The next morning, I contacted Detective Robert Martinez, an old colleague from my forensic accounting days. We'd worked together on multiple insurance fraud cases, and if anyone could help me navigate this delicate situation, it was him. "I need your expertise," I said, walking him through the evidence I'd meticulously collected. Detective Martinez spread the documents across the conference room table, his experienced eyes scanning every detail. "This is textbook insurance fraud," he muttered. "But the complexity here, this goes beyond a simple scam." I nodded. "My mother-in-law has connections. She won't go down easily." Gloria Bennett wasn't just a wealthy socialite. She was the daughter of a prominent judge with deep roots in the local legal and business community. Her network was extensive, her influence far-reaching. We developed a multi-layered strategy. First, we needed to isolate Michael from Gloria's influence. Then, we built an airtight case that would not only expose their fraud, but ensure they couldn't manipulate their way out of consequences. I hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Gloria's past. What we discovered was shocking. This wasn't her first insurance fraud attempt. There were whispers of similar schemes involving distant relatives, subtle manipulations that had always just skirted the edge of legality. The investigator uncovered 3 previous instances where Gloria had been involved in suspicious insurance claims. None had ever been proven, but a pattern was emerging. Meanwhile, I maintained a perfect facade of normalcy at home. Michael had no idea I knew about the insurance policy. I continued our daily routines, morning coffee, evening dinners, weekend plans, all while building my case. Detective Martinez connected me with a forensic psychologist who specialized in family fraud cases. The key, she explained, is to understand the psychological manipulation at play. Gloria had systematically groomed Michael since childhood. He wasn't just a willing participant, he was a victim of long-term emotional manipulation. She created a dependency that ran deeper than simple financial control. Our strategy became clear. We needed to break Gloria's psychological hold on Michael while simultaneously preparing a legal case that would expose their entire scheme. I began subtly challenging Michael's perception. Small conversations that made him question the narrative his mother had constructed. Gentle probing about our finances, our future, our dreams. "Do you ever feel like we're just going through the motions?" I asked one evening, watching his reaction carefully. The cracks started to show. Michael became more withdrawn, more conflicted. Gloria's grip was loosening. 2 weeks into our plan, an unexpected opportunity presented itself. Gloria had scheduled a charity event, her annual performance to maintain her social image. Detective Martinez and I saw our chance. We strategically leaked anonymous information to a local investigative journalist, someone known for exposing white-collar crimes. Not enough to alert Gloria, but enough to start pulling on the thread of her carefully constructed facade. The first domino fell during the charity gala. A routine financial audit of the event's donations raised questions, small discrepancies that would make anyone with connections nervous. Michael began to crack. Late one night, I found him in our home office, surrounded by financial documents, his hands shaking. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice soft. He looked up, tears in his eyes. "I don't know how we got here," he whispered. It was the opening we needed, the moment of vulnerability that would allow Michael to see the truth. Detective Martinez had prepared a carefully crafted intervention. We brought in Michael's estranged sister, someone who had long ago cut ties with Gloria due to her manipulative behavior. She shared her own experiences, providing Michael with perspective he'd never considered. The psychological impact was immediate. Michael realized he was a pawn in his mother's elaborate schemes. "She's been controlling everything," he said, his voice breaking. "I thought I was protecting our family, but I was destroying it." By the time Gloria realized what was happening, the groundwork had been laid. Financial investigators were already looking into her past claims. The insurance company had been quietly building a case. Our final move would be precise, calculated, and devastating. I sat across from Michael, holding his hand. "We have a choice," I said. "We can be victims or we can be survivors." He looked up, a glimmer of the man I'd fallen in love with returning to his eyes. "What do you mean?" "We're going to expose everything," I said. "But we're going to do it in a way that protects us and prevents her from hurting anyone else." The plan was set. Gloria had no idea that her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. And I was going to make sure every piece fell exactly where it should. The day of reckoning arrived with an unexpected calm. Detective Martinez had prepared everything meticulously. The insurance company, local authorities, and financial crimes unit were all aligned. We chose Gloria's favorite restaurant, an exclusive downtown venue where she regularly hosted her social circle. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd always loved being the center of attention. Today would be no different. Michael was nervous, his hands trembling slightly as we walked into the restaurant. I squeezed his hand. "We're doing the right thing," I whispered. Gloria sat at her usual table, surrounded by her elite social circle. Her perfectly tailored suit, the expensive jewelry. Everything screamed power and control. She looked up, surprised to see us approaching. "What a pleasant surprise," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. The timing was perfect. Just as she spoke, two detectives approached the table. The restaurant fell silent. "Gloria Bennett." Detective Martinez's voice cut through the ambient noise. "We have some questions about multiple insurance claims." I watched her face change. The confidence flickered just for a moment. But Gloria Bennett wasn't someone who crumbled easily. "This is ridiculous," she started, but Michael spoke first. "Mom, it's over," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "We know everything." The next hour was a masterclass in controlled exposure. Investigators presented evidence of not just our recent insurance fraud attempt, but multiple previous schemes. Bank records, communication logs, financial trails, everything carefully documented. Gloria's social circle, the very people she'd spent years impressing, watched in horror as her carefully constructed facade crumbled. The most devastating moment came when her own financial records were projected onto the restaurant's large screens. Donations that never reached charities, insurance claims with suspicious patterns, financial manipulations that spanned decades. "You always taught me that image is everything," Michael told her, his voice breaking. "But what you really taught me was how to hide the truth." By the time the authorities finished, Gloria was escorted out of the restaurant in handcuffs. Her prestigious social network, the very people she manipulated for years, watched in stunned silence. The legal proceedings that followed were extensive. Gloria faced multiple charges of insurance fraud, financial manipulation, and attempted murder. Her connections couldn't save her this time. Michael and I spent months in therapy, unpacking the complex web of manipulation he'd lived under. It wasn't just about the insurance fraud. It was about understanding how psychological control works, how family dynamics can become toxic. "I'm sorry," Michael would say repeatedly in those early months. "I'm sorry I let her control me for so long." But I saw something more important happening. Michael was rebuilding himself, finding his own voice, his own path. 6 months later, we made a significant decision. We established a foundation dedicated to helping victims of family fraud and psychological manipulation. Using my forensic accounting skills and Michael's newfound understanding of emotional abuse, we created a support system for those trapped in similar situations. Our first grant went to a support group helping adults break free from familial financial control. It felt like justice, not just for us, but for everyone who had been silenced. Gloria's trial became a landmark case in financial fraud prosecution. Her network of influence collapsed. The very social circles she cultivated for decades now turned their backs on her. "We're not victims," I told Michael one evening, watching the sunset from our home. "We're survivors." He smiled, a genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. "We're more than that. We're fighters." As for Michael, he found a new career in victim advocacy. His experience became a powerful tool in helping others recognize and escape psychological manipulation. I continued my forensic accounting work, but now with a deeper mission. Each case wasn't just about numbers, it was about human stories, about justice. Our story wasn't just about exposing a fraud. It was about breaking cycles of manipulation, about finding strength in vulnerability, about choosing integrity over inheritance. Gloria thought she was playing a game of chess. We showed her we were playing an entirely different game, one of truth, healing, and redemption. And we won.